Hi guys, Andreas Sonic Mainliner with audio review. I don't know, I don't know what to call it. But you probably have seen it from the title that I haven't yet decided what it's going to be. It's just me sharing my experiences from using different amplifiers with my existing setup, and just wanted to share, and maybe you might find it interesting or not. This is something that I have had in my mind for a while because obviously I am the person sort of affected by it, and I need to make a decision because it's like I have two sets of amplifiers right now, and I need to decide why and all that. So first of all, apologies if I waffle on a little bit. I will try to be as concise as possible and give you as clear an idea about the thought process behind buying the equipment, what they are, how they sound, and my experience living with them basically. So let's start off the journey with why I ended up having what I ended up having, basically. So the main reason why I needed I needed to upgrade my amplifier. My previous amplifier was a Yamaha AS1000, and it was driving a pair of B&W's 805S, and it was fine. But I have to say that the B&Ws were a little bit flat. I think that's a general kind of characteristic of B&Ws, and they do sound a little bit flat, and they are the kind of speaker that you need to crank in order to actually get it going. So you had to just be a little bit more liberal with the volume knob. Um, I upgraded to these ones. These are the KEF reference ones. And the moment I ordered them, I knew that I needed an amplifier upgrade because the 80 watts that the Yamaha produced would not cut it. I knew that it wouldn't cut it. The reason being that they're very low in sensitivity, 85 dB. They dip below 4 ohms, very, well, not predictably, but very specifically. Like, I think it's the lowest point is like 3.6 or something like that, and that is in the lower region, so in the low bass region. I don't remember exactly, somewhere between like 50, 60, 70, or somewhere around there. So it is an important frequency range, and it's a frequency range that you can expect to be actually heard in a decent living room, basically. So it's quite important to get something that is more powerful to drive these, because otherwise, if you go with 60 watts, I don't know. I mean, it might work for you. It would definitely not work for me. I knew that from the get-go. So what I put my mind, and after doing my research and all that, I had decided that I had some things that I definitely needed for my new amplifier to have. The Yamaha was great, but it was just a plain amplifier, which is not a bad thing, to be honest. Especially if the more electronics that are being incorporated, it means that there's more of a chance of your amplifier becoming obsolete because reasons. So yeah, ideally I would say that just if you're going to get an amplifier, get an amplifier that just has a remote and just analog inputs, and then you can pile things on. Problem is that I use three sources basically. So the three sources are a turntable, have quite a few records and all that, which I play. I have CDs, which I also play. I think that a lot of people are just ripping them and putting them on a server, and they stream them. But if you do that, then why bother? Why not like stream it from Tidal or stream it from wherever? Why even have the physical thing? Even the process of going to the CD player and putting the CD for me is a poorer kind of experience as compared to vinyl, but it is a valid experience. It's like you have something physical. It's a completely different experience, and that's why I'm going for the physical part of it. But I am a very lazy guy, and I really like streaming stuff, and I stream quite a few. Quite a large percentage of my listening will be streaming because of the convenience, and I'm guilty as charged. It's fine, that's a reality of it. My favorite streaming platform, or my streaming platform of choice, if you like, is Spotify. Spotify have a really nice interface. They have like all the music that I need. They have a lot of stuff out there. I mean, the catalog is amazing. I have put like my playlists, saved albums that I want to listen to. So, I have like a virtual collection within the interface. And it has also a very convenient feature, which is Spotify Connect. So you use it on your phone or your laptop or whatever, and you say Spotify Connect to that device, and it starts playing onto that device. And this is definitely something that I want to have. So I bought, knowing that I needed, that kind of connectivity as well. Like, first of all, network, that was important for me to have. Spotify Connect was one thing that I definitely wanted. And the other thing is that, it's like, my stereo is underneath the TV. It would be a good idea to hook up like PlayStation and TV and, watch movies and things like that. So all these things were quite important. And after doing my research, I stumbled upon the i32, which was really good, but I've read that, oh yeah, well, you know what, it doesn't do Spotify Connect, which was a little bit of a deal breaker in a sense, but I thought that I could circumvent that. Then I read about the new one at that time. It was like 3 years ago, something like that. That the new i35, which had all the bells and whistles, and it was more powerful, and it just never came out in time. And that was one of the problems. I put a pre-order for it. I think that was in October 2017. Actual physical delivery of the amplifiers and the range really came like a year after. Really, it was delayed, ridiculously delayed. So, anyway, I found an i32, which was like, at the time I was thinking, oh yeah, well, it should be good enough. And I got it. It was still a little bit not to my liking, and then I ended up complementing the system with the Wired for Sound SX1000Rs. So that was the system for a while, and then I saw a video of that was last year, September or October or something like that. It was a John Darko video, and he was talking about the key threes versus Keffer reference ones with the Hegel 390, which is one model down from the model that I'm going to be talking about. And he said that, oh yeah, well, it's very musical, it's very good, and having the Class Ds, I was thinking that, look, based on my requirements, the Hegel looks like a really good, one, and the Hegel was the 360 was in my sort of consideration list before I bought the i32. And it makes a lot of sense because it has analog inputs like balanced, RCAs, whatever, optical, USB, BNC, coaxial, coax. It has network, so you do Spotify Connect, and like and one box, quite important because you know what, it's really good to have like I like convenience a lot. So having 3 boxes, and then you have to think that I need to have a CD player. I need to have something that streams stuff, and I need to have a phono preamp. So it takes a lot of space. I mean, if I can cut down from 3 boxes to 1 box, that would be a win, right? So that was the thinking. But anyway, it just didn't happen basically. So I saw that review, and it sparked my interest. And one other thing that I wanted to do is just see how other things sound. And maybe, the Hegel, and I've seen Hegel with Kefs a lot of times in shows. So it seems that there is a lot of synergy there. So, I wouldn't put my foot wrong in any kind of way. And it was a change. It was more convenient, a change in sound, refresh things, all that kind of stuff. Really good idea. I found a 590 for a very good price, and I went for it. And yeah, I did get a completely different sound. It was completely different. Bag loads of different, to be honest. I didn't imagine that would be the case. So that is sort of like the journey. And here I am now discussing, my experience basically. So let's go on to a little bit more technical stuff. So this is the 590. It's a beast of a machine. I wouldn't. No, yeah, no. I wouldn't be able to lift it. It weighs, I don't know, a lot. It weighs enough to damage your back, basically. It's big, it's heavy. It is 301 watts. One of the characteristics one of the specs that is quite important for this amp is that it has a high dampening factor. The advertised number is 4,000, but this is measured at 1 kilohertz, so don't take it as gospel. I've seen graphs that describe so plot out the dampening factor across frequencies, and in the lower range of frequencies it's not 4,000. It is triple digit. I cannot remember the exact number, but at the same time other amplifiers have triple digits only in the kilohertz range. When it comes to low frequencies, that drops below 100, and this is way above that. So yes, the number is exaggerated, but at the same time it's way higher than anything else out there in this price point anyway. The other thing is that it has, as I said, a lot of connectivity. It has XLRs, it has optical, everything. Very minimalist, very Scandinavian, and it's a really nice amplifier. It's really nice. Now, the previous system is this one, and it's, as I said, it's the Premier i32, which is an amplifier, but I am only using the preamp stage and the DAC. It has the MM30 board on it, and the amplifiers, the monoblocks are these ones, and these are rated at a ridiculous 670 watts at 8 ohms, and it goes up to like 1.17 kilowatts kilowatts in 4 ohms, stable down to 2 ohms. This one also is stable down to 2 ohms. It's like, no problem, just give it, and it actually delivers it. I've seen a measurement of something like I can't recall. It was like some kilowatts of power on 1 ohm. So it was actually managed to measure something. You will never need that, but it's there. These are class D. This is class AB. They're stable to 2 ohms, stable to anything. So basically both of these have a lot of power. I mean, 300 watts and 600. Yeah, I know that, the number is like, oh, it's double. It's like, it is in a way, but at the same time, it's not important, because I don't think that, you would be listening, you would be using like, a third or 2/3 of the power of any of these at any point. Besides, the speakers are rated at 250, so both of these could blow these out, no problem. So yeah, so that is something to consider. So yeah, from that point of view, both are powerful. Like, these ones are ridiculous, and when it comes to power, and that's one of the reasons why I bought them. Also, I read some reviews, and they were really good. And yeah, so let's go on to a little bit more, practical stuff, right? One of the things that I always thought about is that, as I said, I like convenience. I like pressing the button on, and then, I can hear music, I can listen to music. It's a really good thing to have. And having 3 boxes that, utilize, that are used in order to, like, listen to music, can be a little bit of a problem. Because you need to switch on, the preamp, and not with these ones. And they have a feature which is, it's not like, rare, but it's not as prevalent as I would expect it to be. It has triggers. So what happens is that when you switch this on, the amplifier switch on. When you switch it off, the amplifier switch off. Yeah? No, what happened? I pressed the wrong button. There you go. Ta-da! So that is convenient. That is really good. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention is that although this machine is not capable of Spotify Connect, which was one of the things that I really looked forward to, Premiere were kind enough, or well, I wouldn't say kind, but I would say smart enough to not let down the people that bought the amplifiers and preamplifiers with the MM30 board, because they couldn't upgrade it. Basically, it was non-upgradable, and you couldn't go to Prisma, which is their newer one. So they released this module, which is the NP5, and Premiere users could get it half price. And this manages to do Spotify Connect, Tidal, Roon, you name it, it does it, and it's really good. So yeah, that's the setup here. This also, the NP5 connects with an RS232 to the amplifier, and theoretically it can control it, can control volume, it can switch it on and off and all that. I haven't managed to do that, to be honest, but it is there. Potentially I need to play around with it a little bit more to get it to work. On the other hand, the Hegel, it's oh yeah, and there's one more convenience factor to this. It has another couple of, Premiere has very well thought out products when it comes to conveniences. So it has a lot of inputs. So it has, 4 RCAs, 2 XLRs, 4 optical, 1 USB, and 1 one USB and 1 coax. So theoretically, you have the knob going like around and around and around to find the one that you want to use. However, you can switch the other ones off. So what ends up happening is that you have 3 devices connected, then the select switch will go like tuck tuck tuck, and you can rotate only on those three. Everything else, just forget about it. The other thing that is really good is that you can rename them. So if it's optical 1, then you can say that, all right, this is the CD, or this is the MP5, or this is the TV, or whatever, to your liking, basically. And finally, the other thing that is really convenient is that you can equalize the volume. So you can do like a digital, it has two domains, the digital domain and on the analog domain, and you can select the offset. So you can go up to from 0, which is standard, to plus 12 or minus 12. So you can make the output louder or softer. It's not dBs, I don't think, because 12 dBs is quite a lot. And I have the phono preamp cranked up to plus 6, which is, yeah, it's a little bit louder, but not like 6 dB louder. I don't think it is. On the other hand, you have Hegel. One of the problems I have with it, it's not a problem really, is that it doesn't have these conveniences. So what it does is that first of all, there is no on-off button on the machine. There is an echo switch that puts it in low power, and when you want to use it, you can either Spotify connect to it and it lights up, which is great. It's very convenient. But when you want to change inputs, let's say that you're doing Spotify Connect and you want to play a CD, then you need to rotate the input selector, and you will rotate across network, BNC, coaxial, USB, optical 1, optical 2, optical 3, so XLR, and then you reach the equivalent connection. The other thing is that it doesn't have any indication where you are, so you're just, most of the time you just rotate in random, and like, okay, yeah, it's like, also you cannot rename them, so you need to know, well, it, I mean, yeah, it's not a big deal, but it is like, I don't need all these, I need like 3, can't I, like, from the interface, like, select that I don't want these, I don't want to see them, I don't want to select them. Yeah. So that's from that point of view, from a usability point of view. Other than that, is like, it has a remote control. It's a little bit quirky. It's like metal. You need to unscrew it to change batteries. I don't know. It's hefty, but I don't think that is very well, like, thought out. I think it's a little bit too much for no reason. I would rather if they have that, and then they had like a plastic one so that you can just throw it around, whatever. It's like, there's no need for that. One good thing that I found, however, is that this remote has buttons for you can select for the songs. So if it's streaming, it's like, it says here computer. So when you're streaming with Spotify, for example, you press next or play to pause and backwards and forwards, which is great. And also I found out that the play and next and previous buttons on this also work with the Cambridge CXC, which I have, not CXC, sorry, CDC, the CD transport. So it works with that as well, which is great. Funnily enough, the remote control for the Premiere, when you switch it switches on the CD as well. So you press on and it switches on the amplifier and switches on the CD at the same time. It's like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, it's weird. Anyway, so yeah, that's it. So other than that, I've been talking about for 24 minutes. What else can I say? Yes, I would say that the Hegel, although it's like robustly built and all that, it doesn't feel as premium as the Premiere. The other thing that I wanted to say is that the what did I want to say? That I like the looks of the Premiere a little bit more, to be honest, and I like the Premiere like styling. It's like very minimalist, and I like silver stuff. I don't like black stuff. And I bought the CD, the transport, just for this amplifier, and yeah, it's nicely matching and all that. You don't have to buy the Hegel one, which is like $3,500. And the final thing I want to say is that the price points between these two setups is not comparable. If you go with retail prices, this is a lot more expensive. And if I go with retail prices with the i32, is a old machine. When it first came out, I think it was like £3,000. I didn't pay £3,000 for it. I bought it used. And the wired for sound one, monoblocks were like, if you were to buy them new, they are like, I think £3,000 or thereabouts. So yeah, combined, they are cheaper than this one. So how do they sound? Quick and dirty. The Hegel is smooth. The Premiere plus the wired for sound, they're the bad boys, and I will get back to that in a bit. So let's start off with how the Hegel 590 sounds. First of all, one of the things that is immediately noticeable, as I said, it's like the sound between this and the Hegel is way different. Top line, I would say that the Hegel is a little bit more recessed. The sound is a little bit behind. It gives a lot more sense of space, and this is amply sort of you get it if you listen to anything that has spatial information or it has a lot of reverb. Things like let me see, I have CDs here, so it's very convenient, like The Dead Can Dance, for example. This is a good example of something that has a lot of reverb, a lot of spatial kind of information, although it's not necessarily, I don't know whether it's like induced or it's for real, but if you listen to anything like that, then it gives you that sense of space. And to be honest, if I had the speakers a little bit more freestanding, potentially in a bigger room, then that would be even more amplified. But even with a semi-compromised position of the speakers, it works really well. The other thing that also sort of pops out is that there is a lot of control in the lower frequencies. So the lower frequencies are really tight, very controlled, and it has with an iron fist. It's like, no, you will do what I say. There is no going anywhere. Mid-range is very clear. You can hear voices. There are some recordings, like, I don't know, the Tinder Sticks, for example, that the sound of the voice, or Radiohead for that matter, sometimes it sounds a little bit muffled, a little bit like whatever. And with this amplifier, it's a lot clearer. If it's a good recording, then you get really good, very good mid-range. I mean, the way that it processes voice is really good. High frequencies. Oh, and there's another one that I wanted to mention, is that mid-range. This is for the mid-range high frequency part, where it's like super smooth high frequencies, a lot of extension, a lot of detail. It's like it's so detailed. It's unbelievable. And this added to the spatial dimension of it and the ability to have spatially understand where everything is. It makes for a really good hi-fi, high-end experience, I guess. And one of the recordings that I was playing the other day is this one. And this is Feist, and this is the Reminder. Really good album. It is recorded a little bit quirkily, and I haven't heard this album, I hadn't played this album for a long while, but every time that I played it before, it always sounded very harsh. It sounded the S's, from from Feist. So this kind of thing. It was very pronounced. Played through this, it all made sense. Everything was smoothed down, and everything was like much more clear without being harsh. It's one of those things that this amplifier does. It has, when you listen to it, there is so little distortion, because that's another key element of this amplifier. So little distortion that everything becomes a lot clearer. Everything becomes a lot smoother, and without being texture free, but it's very, very smooth. And one of the things that happens with this machine is that you end up listening a lot louder than you would, because you don't notice it really. It's like being on a bullet train. It's like, oh yeah, we're going 500 kilometers an hour. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. You reach that speed, you're going like that fast, but you're in comfort and everything's all right. And I think that the Hegel know about this, and they have a feature which is to limit the peak volume. So this one goes from 0 to 99, and you can artificially block it at, arbitrarily wherever you want, like, I don't know, at 50, at 60, at 70, or whatever. So it doesn't go higher. There's like a dual reason for it. One, they say that, if your kids start playing with it, they will not play it really loud. That's a good excuse, I think. The other thing is that because you can also, when you're connecting with Spotify, you can also select volume with Spotify. So you control the volume from the app, and you might accidentally swipe it all the way, and goes to 100, and then there go the speakers. But I think that the reality of it is that you get to listen a lot louder than you would, and you wouldn't notice it. And because it has oodles of power, you need to be careful not to fry your speakers, basically. And yeah, and you just get carried away. You don't notice it, because you listen to something, and your ears get used to it, and then you're like, oh, I'll put it a little bit louder, and it just happens organically, and you end up like party levels, and it's like, ooh, sorry neighbors, I didn't know that I was bothering you that much. But yeah, that's the Hegel. Now, with the Premiere and the Wired for Sound combination, that is a whole different presentation, and it is a lot more. It has a more forward character, so mid-range and lower mid-range kind of frequencies are a little bit more forward. They're more pronounced in a way. The high register is not as airy or as detailed. Sure, there's like loads of detail, and trust me, coming from an AS1000 to this, with this combination, it is an upgrade. But Hegel is just on a different level, I think, when it comes to that. It's a more kind of, it's like doing a comparison, I think, without having heard any horn speakers. But I think that the sound would be the right comparison would be like comparing a horn speaker with something that is either a dynamic one, a very refined dynamic one maybe, or electrostat, or magneplanar or whatever. I used to have electrostats, and they did have that kind of airiness to them. And I think that maybe electrostats, I don't know, I've heard planar ones as well, magnepans, and they were a lot more powerful when it came to like presentation as compared to electrostats. But my electrostats were not like the biggest ones anyway. Doesn't matter. So yeah, this is like a lot, completely different kind of presentation. Now, what is better? Which is an interesting question, because better is it's really hard to define here. And I was listening to this setup with the Hegel for I don't know 8 months now, and I decided to switch back to the old one, make a comparison, and hopefully make a decision, because I cannot keep both of these. It's just redundant. I need to keep one of them, and I need to make a decision at some point and sell one and keep one, and like, you know, just do whatever. So after living with the Hegel for 8 months, I did the switch back to the old system just to see how it sounds. Now, one of the characteristics that I talked about the Hegel is that it's very smooth. It has like this kind of smoothness, which will benefit some things, like, you know, as I said, the smoothness benefits stuff like this. Or, like, for example, if you listen to electronic music, if you listen to Future Sound of London, for example, I've never heard that recording that good ever before. It's amazing, because it has like all the elements work together for this, and I don't think that it's like it's accidental that John Darko really liked the Kef and Hegel combination, because for electronic music it sounds unbelievable. When it comes to anything that has like, you know, voice or, you know, natural instruments, it sounds great. Anything that has space in it, it sounds. I think that, you know, this is a proper high-end experience. But at the same time, not all music is the same, and it comes to personal taste, where I listen to a lot of rock music, and it's not that the Hegel cannot play rock music, but rock music has a problem. Rock music is not always recorded very well, and when it comes to this kind of stuff, Hegel just exposes any kind of flaw in the recording. If it's crap, it will sound crap. And you will realize it. You knew that it was crap, but you didn't give a crap, so to speak. But yeah, in this case, you will give a crap, because it's like, oh, this sounds really bad. This is like, I didn't realize that it sounded that bad. The other thing is that smoothness does not translate very well with all kinds of music. And the difference in the way that this amplifier sounds, these two amplifiers sound, it's very pronounced. It's unbelievably pronounced, to be honest. When you listen to this combination, it's like the difference between having an amplifier with the loudness on for this, and with the Hegel, it's like having the same amplifier with the loudness off. So what ends up happening is that with this one, you get a fuller sound from lower levels, from lower sound pressure levels. So like, you know, very casual listening or late night listening sounds fuller, although the speakers are the same and they're on the same spot and I haven't changed anything. That's the effect. And they sound like it's playing a lot louder, but it's softer. And as you crank it up, the only thing that happens is that the sound sort of increases in volume, pretty much, but it stays the same. It's like getting like a small object and magically stretching it to become bigger or louder in this case. With the Hegel, you get a very unsatisfactory experience when it's playing softly, and you need to crank it up. And coming back to what I was saying before about the limiter and about not noticing how loud you are listening to, is also a factor of that. So if you're listening to rock music, you will crank it up because you need to get that low frequency presence, which is suppressed, I would say, with an iron fist when it comes to the Hegel. So you don't get that oomph from that lower frequency. Although both amplifiers, they measure flat. The way that this is delivered, it's mind-boggling that it's so different. This is, as I said, loudness on. This is like loudness off. But and you crank it and it's like it just becomes bigger. This is changes. The sound changes. It becomes fuller. It's like my experience when I had the 805 BMWs and the Yamaha, where at low volumes it was like sleepy. It wasn't exciting. You needed to crank it up. Same here with the Hegel. You need to crank it up. And I think that I have been listening a lot louder, trying to get that drive from the recordings. The other thing that I noticed is that there is, apart from the sort of stronger presence in the lower register, is that there's a bit of dryness when it comes to high frequencies and to mid frequencies. I think that there's a dryness in the mid frequencies where it comes to also a little bit on the lower register of the mid frequencies and upper register of the lower frequencies. So that's why this sounds really smooth and really nice when it's played from the Hegel, and it doesn't sound that good when it's played with this combination. However, there are benefits to having something like that. Now, some while ago, because on this channel I have been doing reviews and, well, not reviews really, I've been showing stuff that I bought, and there were a couple of CDs that I played, and I don't know if I can find the other one now very quickly. I mean, this video has already sort of blown out of proportion anyway. And but I warned you, it's these things happen. This was bound to happen. All right, okay, I found it. Good. So I did some I'm showing music that I buy, and I showed a couple of CDs and I made some comments which I think that people might not get unless they listen to them from this system, namely this one, Hudson Bell, which is a modern indie band that sounds like they came out of 1992. They have an overdriven guitar, and it sounds like Bardo Pond. If you know Bardo Pond, the band, these guys, they play this kind of super distorted psychedelic music, and this sounded like indie, but with the guitars from there, not with a Hegel. It doesn't sound like that. It's smooth. It gets smoothed out. Those juggy edges, they get smoothed out. The other one that I was talking about, and I think that people would have seen that and would have said, what kind, he's an idiot, right? What is he talking about? Is this one. This is Weld. This is a live set from Neil Young and Crazy Horse, and I was referring specifically to Blowing in the Wind, where it's just Neil Young and the guitar and playing Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan. And from the Premier Wired for Sound system, from Wired for Sound sort of combo, this one, when played, it sounds like Sun. If you don't know Sun, I'm very, very conveniently, I have CDs here, if I can find Sun. Oh, where is it? If you don't know Sun, so these guys, which is just guitar, and it's guitar drone kind of power ambient kind of thing. and the guitar sounded like that. It had like woomph to it. Not with a Hegel. It is a distorted guitar, yeah, it's fine, but it's smooth. It's not. It doesn't have. It doesn't cut. The edges don't cut. It's really smooth, and things like, for example, this one, where it's like just basically like just guitar. There's no bass and whatnot, and the kick drum, and this sounds amazing with this combination. It has that kind of dryness. It's just the chug, chug, chug of the guitar. It's actually chug, chug, chug. Basically, when you have this combination with these speakers at the same position, it's like you get Marshall amps instead of Kefs, whereas with the Hegel, you get Kefs. And it's really nice, but it's not as exciting. It's really hard to you listen to it loud, but it doesn't feel as substantial for whatever reason. Finally, what I wanted to say is that when I first plugged it in, that sort of lack of presence in the lower registers, because of potentially maybe it's the high dampening factor, drove me to tune the speakers a little bit. I didn't change the position, but I tuned the speakers because you can do it with KEF. So these are like bass port plugs, and currently I'm using the long ports, which sort of smooth out the frequency response. With these ones, what you get is that you get a shorter frequency response. So the minus whatever in the lower register is like a little bit shorter, but it gets a little bit of a bump, and I needed that when I was playing it with the Hegel. But with this one, I'm using the long ports, and it's just really bizarre. And I don't know if it's a matter of loudness, because as I said, this one other thing that I was trying to figure out why there is such a big difference in the sound is that this goes from 0 to 99, the Premier goes from 0 to 79. So immediately there's like that 30% difference in loudness when you crank it up. But I think I have been listening on the same kind of listening levels, more or less, with both of them. And again, what happens is that this produces a much fuller sound, a much more enjoyable sound. And whereas the Hegel, it produces a fantastically clean and informative and smooth kind of sound, but doesn't have an up and go to it. So to conclude, I think I haven't finished up with my testing yet. I think that the ultimate test is going to be when I hook up the Hegel and I feed the wired for sound amplifiers through the preamp from this, so that I can see what the impact of the much better DAC on this machine and different preamp stage would make to the sound of the wired for sound, and how much of that sound wired for sound is responsible and how much of it is the Premier responsible for. And also the other thing I want to do is retry the amplifier with its power, retry it as a proper amplifier, but playing around with the speaker placement and trying to boost that bass, because that's what's missing for me. It doesn't have that get up and go-ness when it comes to lower frequencies. I could live with the lack of dryness, which just does that chug-chug thing, as I was saying, when it comes to electric guitars. I could live with that because it gives you a lot more, in everything else. But having that, lacking that bass is just annoying, because it doesn't give you that get up and go. It's not that it's not there. I mean, if the recording has bass, this one delivers. Trust me, it's there. It's like, it's like I've read it somewhere where somebody was talking about like, oh, this doesn't have any bass, and then the bass kicked in, and then it was like, oh yeah, it does have. It's exactly the same thing. Is that there is bass when there is bass. Cannot really explain it. It's there, but it needs to be up in the mix in order to present itself. So if you listen to anything like, as I said, electronic music, and it has like lower frequencies, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all under control. It's there, and it has like really good presence. If you listen to rock music, punk, like that has like bass lines and all that are a little bit upper register or whatever, and it's not like really pronounced. It's like you can hear it. It's like when you crank it up, it's like, oh, you need to crank it up a little bit more so that you can get a little bit more. And that's the thing. It's like you still have neighbors. If you don't, then great. You can just crank it up and say, yeah, fantastic. Overall, I would say that the Hegel is a pure high-end experience. It has some flaws when it comes to the user interface, if you like. I think there would be some things I would definitely change. I like the features that Premiere has as a preamplifier. When it comes to system-wide kind of thing, as I said, it's really smooth, it's really good. I really like the things that it does well, but it fails me on something that is quite crucial, and it doesn't have that get up and go-ness. The Hegel is hands down the better amplifier. There's no question about it. It does pretty much everything better, but it's just a matter of taste. And in my case, I think that I prefer that artificial, if you like. Maybe it's artificial. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it sounds the way it sounds, but it does. And what I can say is that I like it that way more than this. So the question is here, if I make these changes, I hook it up to the speakers, move the speakers around, try to boost that lower frequency, that lower register by moving them a little bit further back, closer to the wall, will that make a change? That's something to be seen. If I connect the preamp, I would never use this as a preamp, the Hegel as a preamp. That would be silly. That's not something I'm going to do. But I want to see how much influence that system has, because if I were to sell this, then I would like to get the Pre-35 from Premiere, because it has all the bells and whistles in it, and and go for a full Premiere mainstay and just keep the power amplifiers. And that's it. It's 53 minutes of me rambling about amplifiers and my experience with them. I don't know if you found it interesting or remotely interesting, or if it was of any use or whatever. And I don't know. I will do another video once I do these tests and see how it goes, and I will have a definite idea about where I want to go going forward. As I said, just to conclude, both systems have their merits. The Premiere wired for sound is a lot cheaper. It gives me, at least in this space, a much more enjoyable experience. It has a lot of features that I really like. The Hegel has an amazing resolving sound, an amazing smoothness, amazing sort of high-end, hi-fi, if you like, bells and whistles, and characteristics that I know why people are falling over for it. It's like, distortion-free listening, and it's amazing, but it's not what I'm necessarily looking for, and it's also lacking in that sort of presentation that makes it more enjoyable. So that's it. Anyway, leave your comments if you want. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, subscribe to this channel, I don't know, you could, or like smash that dislike button, whatever you want to do, or unsubscribe, whatever. I'm just putting it out there, you know, and you are the judge of it. Anyway, until next time, see you around.